Hello, this is for ISOL 633 at the University of the Cumberlands. Textbook is Legal Issues in Information Security. This is for Chapter 13, Information Security Governance. And this chapter discusses information security governance. It also discusses information security policies. An organization's governance structure is an important part of its information security program. Governance focuses on the structure used to protect resources and data. The structure must provide security and support business needs. Strong governance helps create strong security programs. Organizations use policies, standards, guidelines, and procedures to create their security program. These documents help guide employees' conduct. They're tools that organize use in many ways. They help make sure that our information technology resources are secured, also help protect an organization from legal liability. So the learning objective for this chapter is to examine the principles requiring governance of information within organizations. So key concepts we'll look at is describe, what information security governance is, what information security governance documents are, and what recommended information security policies are. After viewing this chapter, you'll be able to describe the key concepts and terms associated with information security governance, describe the goals of different information security governance documents, describe the different types of policies that can be used to govern information security. So, information security governance. University of California Global Information Industry Center tries to measure information use in the United States. It defines information as any flow of data delivered to people. It can be in any form. The center reports that Americans consume 3.6 zettabytes of information in 2008. Our use of information is growing. For business, data is a valuable asset. An organization must find ways to protect its data. It also must make sure that data can be used for business reasons. This balance is key to organization's success. Failing to strike the right balance can harm the organization's goals. Considering the following: an organization can't market its products without access to consumer lists. Consumers may complain about incorrect electronic data. And if confidential data is disclosed, an organization faces embarrassment. An organization's executive management team is responsible for governing the organization. This means that it's also responsible for information security governance. Information security governance, or ISG, is the executive management team's responsibility to protect an organization's information assets. ISG makes protecting information assets a business decision. To do this, an organization must align its information security goals to its business needs. The ISG, or Information Security Governance, moves information security beyond technical decision, makes security a strategic decision. So organizations use information security governance to enhance their business. ISG makes sure that information security goals are used to meet business goals. This means that the organization uses security goals of confidentiality, integrity, and availability, a way that makes sense for the business. ISG also makes sure that there's a proper accountability and oversight for meeting the goals. So this CIA triad of confidentiality, integrity, and availability is shown on that figure on the screen. So information security governance planning. Information security governance refers to executive management's responsibility to provide strategic direction, oversight, and accountability for the security of its data and information technology resources. The main duty is to make sure that information security strategy supports business goals. The common business goal is to make a profit. The organization must take into account many factors that affect this goal. Business drivers are forces that influence the organization's business goals. They can be internal or external. They include the people, processes, and trends. The organization must balance business drivers to meet their goals. They do this during the business planning process. 3 types of business planning, which include strategic planning. This is long-term planning. Strategic planning focuses on preparing new approaches and planning for new technologies. It lays the groundwork for new business directions. The ISG uses strategic planning to support business objectives. Tactical planning. This is short to medium-term planning. Tactical planning allows an organization to be responsible to respond to market conditions. It allows them to take advantage of short-term or unexpected opportunities. Tactical plans are usually 6 months or less in length. And operational planning. This is day-to-day planning. Operational planning focuses on the normal operations of an organization. This is responsive to daily issues. The organization's executive management team carries out strategic planning. This is when they determine the business goals. Once it determines its business goals, it must figure out how information security can support these goals. It will use the same types of planning strategies to think about information security. When planning for information security, the organization must think about information needs. The organization must ask how it uses data to meet its business needs. Must then think about how information security can support this. For instance, if an organization conducts most of its business on the internet, it must think about availability and integrity. Its IT systems must hold accurate data and be ready to conduct business. Regulatory requirements. The organization must know its regulatory landscape. Must know the data protection laws that it must follow. Often these laws focus on protecting the confidentiality of certain types of data. Risk management. The organization must adopt a risk management approach. Must know the information security risks that it faces, and also must decide how it will respond to risk. Security failures. The organization must think about information security failures. Must consider the impact of security breach, malware, infected IT resources, or available data. There may be many negative impacts of an information security failure. These include lawsuits and breach notification costs. An organization will certainly lose customers after an information security incident. This affects its bottom line. An organization answers these questions to determine ISG's strategic direction. Make sure that its information security goals support its business objectives. So information security policy roles. It's important to know who makes information security decisions. These decisions can be strategic, tactical, or operational. Not every organization has the same structure. Organizations can have different legal forms, such as corporations, partnerships, or limited liability companies. These legal forms are governed by state law. This section will review ISG roles. You will be more likely to find roles described here in larger organizations, such as corporations. Smaller organizations may not fill all of these roles. They may combine many duties into one role. Nonprofit and educational organizations may also have different roles for people. These organizations tend to have structures with shared responsibilities. So many different roles can make decisions about information security. They include Board of Directors, Chief Information Officer, Chief Information Security Officer, and Information Security Managers. So Board of Directors runs an organization. It's an organization's top governance group. Board of Directors is required by law to act with due care. is to make all of its decisions in the best interest of the organization. The board of directors plans an organization's strategic direction. It also determines business goals. Make sure that an organization uses its resources properly to meet these goals. Finally, make sure that an organization acts illegally. If an organization does not have a board of directors, then its top-ranking executive group performs these duties. The Chief Information Officer is the organization's senior IT official. The CIO, or Chief Information Officer, focuses on strategic IT issues. The CIO defines an organization's IT mission. It's the CIO's job to keep the board of directors advised about IT issues. CIOs aren't usually involved in day-to-day IT operations. Their duties are strategic and tactical in nature. They often delegate responsibility for information security management to the CISO, or Chief Information Security Officer. A CIO isn't the same as a Chief Technology Officer. The CIO is responsible for the company's internal IT systems. CIOs focus on the systems used to run an organization's business. A CIO tends to be internally focused. A Chief Technology Officer, or CTO, develops a company's technology products. These are the products that the company delivers to its customers. The CTO tends to be externally focused. The Chief Information Security Officer, or CISO, is the organization's senior information security official. The role of the CISO is relatively new. It continues to evolve. Depending on an organization's structure, the CISO might report to the CIO. The CISO also could report to the organization's Chief Financial Officer. CISOs are responsible for an organization's information security strategy. They also are very involved in tactical planning. They aren't generally involved in daily IT operations. The CISO makes sure that the CIO and the board of directors understand information security threats and how to respond to these threats. The CISO may make information security policy suggestions to the board of directors. CISO also helps determine information security safeguards. He or she delegates functional and operational tasks to other managers. So, information security governance documents. An organization's ISG documents inform the basis of its information security program. They document the organization's commitment to information security. They're used to address the organization's information security goals, how the organization protects its own data, how the organization protects the data of others, compliance with legal and regulatory requirements, employee information security responsibilities, consequences for failing to meet responsibilities. Organizations use policies, standards, guidelines, and procedures to create their security program. These documents work together to support information security goals. A formal policy is the highest level governance document. Standards are the next level, then procedures. Guidelines provide security advice. The documents move from a general policies to the more specific procedures. So, policies and standards. The formal policy is executive management's high-level statement of information security direction and goals. They're the top level of governance documents. They help minimize risk by laying out the organization's information security strategy. High-level policies are approved by an organization's board of directors. The board of directors use policies to set forth its information security goals. They also state compliance expectations. Not all organizations will have the same types of high-level policies. They are unique to each organization. Each organization develops policies by reviewing its regulatory landscape. They also must take into account the size and complexity of the organization and its IT systems. They also think about how information security can be used to meet business goals. Policies must be drafted with care. Policy elements vary among organizations, however, there are some common elements to all policies. They can include policy statement, a statement that expected behavior, actions, or outcomes. It's a clear statement of permitted or forbidden actions. Policy exclusions list situations or people who aren't covered by the policy. For the most part, there shouldn't be many exclusions in a high-level policy. Policy rationale states the reason why the policy exists. This includes the legal or regulatory reasons for the policy. Policy might be drafted in response to information security threats. Policy definitions defines terms that have special meaning. Terms with common definitions don't need to be defined. Who is affected by the policy? This states the people, units, or departments affected by the policy. In a high-level policy, this usually is all of the organization's employees. Who must follow the policy? Who must follow the policy as part of their job responsibilities. Compliance language states how the organizations will enforce the policy. It also states what happens to units and employees who fail to follow the policy. Related documents list other documents that are related to the policy. Standards or procedures that support the policy should be listed in this section. Policy contact lists the people who are responsible for answering questions about the policy. And policy history lists historical data about the policy. This section should list revision and review dates. High-level policies are concise. They're tightly worded. This is so that they're easy to understand. High-level information security policy states the organization's information security expectation. These high-level documents don't include explanations about how to meet these expectations. Supporting documents provide that detail. Supporting documents are standards, guidelines, and procedures. Standards support high-level policies. They're just below policies in the documentation hierarchy. They state the activities and actions needed to meet policy goals. Standards are more specific than policies. Standards may require employees to take or refrain from certain actions. Standards often state a minimum level of behavior or actions that must be met to comply with a policy. This is called a baseline. Standards are technology neutral. They don't refer to specific technologies or products. Instead, they refer to the safeguards and controls an organization should use to protect data and IT resources. Procedures are the lowest level of documents. They're step-by-step checklists that explain how to meet security goals or conduct security-related activities. Organizations often tailor these procedures to a certain type of technology. They also can be limited to the activities of a specific department or end users. Procedures usually only address single tasks. They're designed to be flexible. They change as technology changes. Guidelines are the most flexible type of document. Organizations can issue guidelines for a number of reasons. They issue guidelines to encourage employees to adopt good information security practices, educate employees about security threats and how to respond to them, and encourage employees to take action in areas that the organization can't. An organization can use guidelines to give information security advice. They can recommend actions that an employee can apply on their own. The guidelines help employees adopt behaviors that improve information security. Sometimes they address specific kinds of employee behavior. They also might address a specific security issue For example, an organization might create a guideline to help employees learn how to avoid social engineering attacks. So information security policy standards. Each type of document has a different role and focus. It might be directed at different audiences. They might address similar issues from different standpoints. However, they do share some similarities. And these similarities include it must be easy to understand, must have a well-defined scope, must be regularly reviewed, and it must be communicated to all employees. Firstly, documents must be easy to read. All employees must be able to understand them. Even if the subject matter deals with legal issues, the document itself should be free from legalese. Documents shouldn't use technical jargon. The only time it's okay to use complex language is when it's needed to help employees know their responsibilities. Otherwise, these documents must be understandable. Let's make sure that employees can follow them. Second, the documents must have a clear scope. Must clearly address a specific aspect of the organization's security program. Employees shouldn't have to consult many high-level documents to determine the organization's stance on a single issue. Third, the organization must regularly review its documents. Information security doesn't exist in a vacuum. Risks change, laws change, technology changes. The organization must respond to these changes in their security program. To do this, they must review their documentation on a regular basis, make sure that they are current. Finally, the organization must communicate the documents to the employees. Employees can't follow policies they don't know about. Good communication makes sure that employees review the documents as business enablers. Organizations can communicate documents to employees in a number of ways. They can use newsletters, in-person and online training, or company-wide email messages. The organization should create a structured document development process. A formal process gives many areas the opportunity to comment on a policy. This is very important for high-level policies that apply to the whole organization. A formal process also makes sure that final policies are communicated to employees. It also provides organizations with a way to make sure the policies are reviewed regularly. In general, a policy development process should include the following steps: development, stakeholder review, management approval, communication to employees, documentation of compliance or exceptions, continued awareness activities, maintenance, and review. The need for a new document is determined in the development phase. The board of directors or the chief information officer or the chief information security officer might decide that there's a need for a high-level policy. Information security department might suggest that there's a need for a new high-level document. Ideas for a new document really can come from anywhere in an organization. This section focuses on high-level policies are created. The same development process is recommended for other documents as well. So creation of security policy process. So you create the high-level statements, establish standards and policies, review the standards and policies for compliance, and then establish procedures. So once a policy need is identified, the board of directors must determine the goals of the policy. To do this, it reviews a number of areas. Looks at use of IT resources. It reviews the data that's illegally required to protect. Considers its business objectives. Organization's CIO or CISO will give advice about information security issues. The board of directors also might consider how other companies in the same industry approach a certain type of issue. After the review, the board of directors establishes the policy goal. An organization must take care when it drafts high-level policies. So make sure that a new high-level policy doesn't conflict with any previously issued policy. Stakeholders must review the draft when it is finished. At the next step, stakeholders review the draft documents. Stakeholders are interested parties. They're employees and departments that will be affected by the new policy. They also may be subject matter experts in the underlying policy subject matter. IT resource managers also will review the documents at this point. They do this to make sure that they can implement technical controls to meet the policy. This also is the step where legal counsel, risk management, and audit will review the document. These groups make sure the document meets the organization's regulatory needs. Risk management and audit department all want to make sure that they can measure policy compliance. Legal counsel makes sure that the document helps protect the organization from legal liability. Organization may revise the policy many times during this step. Policy must be signed when it's finally in its final form. The board of directors must always review and sign high-level information security policies. Their support is crucial for the successful information security program. They don't always sign lower-level documents. The executive with authority over certain tasks may sign lower-level documents. For example, a CIO or CISO might sign standards or guidelines. Departmental managers and supervisors might sign procedures for their specific areas. Next step is the communication step. It's one of the most crucial steps in the development process. Communication is necessary to make sure that all employees know about the new policy. Helps employees know where to find resources to follow the policy. Organizations can communicate new policies in a number of different ways. Internal newsletters, memos, and company-wide emails can all be used to inform employees about a new policy. As part of the process, an organization must measure policy compliance. It must know how departments act to meet policy requirements. It also must note any exceptions to compliance. An organization can show compliance by documenting the following: when the document was approved, how and when it was communicated to employees, actions departments took to meet responsibilities stated in the document, and deviations from the requirements in the document. The development process must continually educate employees about policy compliance. Ongoing security training and awareness is required to keep employees aware of their responsibilities. Organizations must build regular policy awareness activities into its day-to-day routine. They can include it in other training programs such as workforce safety programs. Finally, an organization must review the documents on a regular basis. Must make sure the documents continue to reflect business and information security goals. Sometimes internal or external factors change so much that an organization must change its policy. At this point, it can either update its policy or withdraw it and create a new one. The board of directors demonstrates due diligence and reasonable care when it regularly reviews its policies. So, recommended information security policies. Information security policies will vary across organizations. This is because all organizations are different. They have different business goals, their security needs aren't the same, and their cultures are different. List of information security issues to address in a policy is endless. However, all organizations face some basic security issues. They should create policies to address these issues. These basic policies that organizations must consider include acceptable use policies, anti-harassment policies, workplace privacy and monitoring policies, data retention and destruction policies, intellectual property policies, authentication and password policies, and security awareness and training policies. These policies address use of information IT resources and the data in those resources. Often, information security and human resources departments will work together on some of these policies. Business and auditing offices must help administrate some of these types of policies. Acceptable use policies. Organizations' use of an acceptable use policy, or AUP, tell employees how to properly use organization IT resources. Organizations should consider drafting an AUP because IT resources are valuable business assets. They're often expensive to buy and maintain, and they also contain data that's valuable to the organization. Anti-harassment policies. Workplace harassment is a serious issue. Harassment is unwanted verbal or physical conduct. It's conduct that demeans or threatens a person. Some examples include telling lewd, sexist, or racist jokes, making racially derogatory comments, making remarks about body shape, looks, or clothing, staring at people in a suggestive manner, making negative comments about a person's religious beliefs, threatening a person or his or her family with harm. Workplace harassment can violate federal law. This happens when the unwanted conduct is based on certain characteristics. Main law in this area is Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. It forbids workplace discrimination based on race, sex, religion, disability, and ethnicity. These are called immutable characteristics. A person can't change them. Data retention and destruction. Data retention and destruction is a hot topic for many organizations. Data retention policies state how data is controlled throughout its life cycle. Laws and organizational policies help determine retention periods. Data destruction policies state how data must be destroyed when it reaches the end of its life cycle. Organizations must destroy paper and electronic data when it's no longer needed. For electronic data, this means destroying it primarily in backup storage systems. Both types of data, it means destroying it in such a way that it cannot be recovered. Data destruction policies are influenced by federal and state laws. Intellectual property policies. Intellectual property laws protect people or organizations' ownership rights in their creative ideas. It gives them the right to protect their ideas. It gives them the right to profit from their ideas. These rights are exclusive to the owners of intellectual property. They can take action against people who violate these rights. Intellectual property policies are very important for most organizations. There are two main reasons why an organization should consider an intellectual property policy. They are to protect its own intellectual property and to make sure that its employees protect the intellectual property rights of others. Organizations have large amounts of data that they can use to carry out their business. They may include information protected by patents, copyrights, and trademarks. It also can include information protected as a trade secret. It's important to the validity of the organization. An organization must protect it. Authentication and password policies. Authentication controls many of the same basic types of information security controls that an organization can use to protect its IT resources. Authentication is the process whereby a user provides his or her identity to access an IT resource. Good authentication provides control access to an organization's IT resources. User does this by presenting credentials. User credentials are used to access its IT resources, usually include a username and one of the following: Something a user knows. This includes a password, passphrase, and personal identification number. Something a user has. This could include like tokens, smart card, and digital certificates. And something a user is. This includes biometric data such as a fingerprint or a retina scan. Organizations can implement authentication methods in many ways. Some ways are more complicated and expensive than others. For example, biometric authentication can be very expensive. Organizations also can choose to implement two-factor authentication. This type of authentication requires an employee to use two different types of credentials to access IT resources. An important part of any information security program is the training and awareness component. This is because employees play a large role in meeting information security goals. Employees often view information security training as a waste of time. As one of the authors writes, given a choice between dancing pigs and security, users will pick dancing pigs every time. Employee behavior can help protect data and IT resources. It also can be harmful. Employees who aren't aware of their responsibilities pose a threat. They may engage in risky online activities. These activities can harm the organization's IT resources. Their actions also could disclose data. They can be subject in an organization to liability. Training and awareness activities help reduce this threat. A high-level policy lets employees know that the Board of Directors supports training activities. Information security awareness and training policy should include the following elements. Why security awareness and training is important. Who has overall responsibility for the policy. Who provides training and awareness activities. Which employees must take part in the training activities. How often training must take place. And what the consequences are for not participating in required training. Board of Directors' support of training activities is vital. Make sure that employees understand that training is important. Makes employees take it seriously. Variety of training and awareness events are necessary to reach employees. Organizations can use multiple training tools to help their employees know about security policies. So in summary, information security governance provides strategic direction for an information security program. Organizations must protect data in a way that supports its business goals. They use high-level policies to state their information security goals. These policies set forth employee responsibilities. An organization can address information security issues in many different policies. Standards, guidelines, and procedures are used to support policies. They explain how employees meet policy goals. A training and awareness program is a key part of an information security program. Helps make sure that employees are aware of their duties. Thank you.